Hello and welcome firstly to a bright and sunny day, and secondly to Hyundai's new i20N hot hatch. Under 25,000 quid, over 200 horsepower, and inspired, according to Hyundai, by the World Rally Car. So like that, it uses a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. The rear wing takes inspiration from the rally car, and it weighs an identical 1,190 kilos, which is commendably light actually. Now, being a lucky sort, I've actually had a go in Hyundai's World Rally Car, and it is the single greatest thing I have ever driven. So if this is even remotely as awe-inspiring to drive, it could be the best small hot hatch for a generation. Out there is Wales. Let's see how it stacks up. We're not on dirt, obviously. This is a road car, but don't forget, another company has recently built a very convincing rally-inspired road car. So maybe Hyundai can do the same. Oh, look. Right, so what are first impressions? Well, firstly, it feels quite firmly suspended. It's quite taut, but you turn it into corners, it doesn't roll much. If you lean on it hard enough, it'll pick up an inside rear wheel as well. But it's got a mechanical differential in it, so basically you can just tread on the power from the moment you turn in it and it'll pull you through. It's really quite effective like that. The drawback to the differential is that if it's a bit rough and cambered, the steering gets pulled and you end up having a bit of a wrestle with it. And this electric steering, it's nicely weighted, but it doesn't have much actual feel. Luckily, the chassis and suspension does. It corners quite flat and firm, and that's not very rally really, is it? But let's come clean here. You and I both know that the WRC connection here is nothing more than marketing guff. It's Thierry Neuville posing in a brochure leaning on one of these. It's a nice bit of sales patter for the dealer, but that's it. So don't go thinking this is another Toyota GR Yaris. It's a different sort of hot hatch to that. N, Hyundai keeps reminding us, stands for Nürburgring. So ignore the rally claims. This is more circuit focused. Silverstone it ain't, but a circuit it is, mostly. Right, before we head out on circuit, let's have a little walk around the i20N. Now, one of the stipulations to borrowing it was Hyundai said we couldn't test it against any of its competitors. But that doesn't stop us talking about them, because there's only one that matters. Now Renault isn't building hot Clios anymore, and that's the Ford Fiesta ST. Right, a bit of compare and contrast then. The i20N is 5-door only, whereas the Fiesta can be had with both 3 and 5 doors. Although I don't think I've ever seen a 5-door. What do we think of the way it looks? A few lines, especially around the back, which we'll see in a bit. Quite busy, but actually quite crisply executed. It's quite nice. We've got 18-inch wheels as standard here, LED headlights. It looks quite a complete car. These little highlights here, tomato red, aggressive. Pirelli P0 tyres, lots of N touches. I reckon this is the better packaged car if that matters to you. The boot is perfectly spacious. There's room underneath it and the seats fold. And then if we get in the back seats, allow 5'9" of me to demonstrate, it's reasonably spacious. I can sit in the back. This is not a very exciting shot, I get you. But look, the floor's low, you sit quite high, got decent headroom. That does the trick. The interior design is a bit plain, although the N touches do elevate it. The seats are on the wide side and the steering wheel rim is quite thick too. No issues with the driving position, although I'd quite like the steering wheel to come towards me a little bit more. It's got a manual handbrake, 6-speed manual. There's no automatic double clutch or anything else. You've got a lot of stuff going on in here and a lot of standard kit. But the only stuff that you really need to know about are the N bits and pieces on it. So if you start it up, you've got 2 steering wheel buttons for N modes. And you've got a red button here, which is not a start button. It's the rev matching button, so you press that. When you change down, it matches everything up for you. But most of the functionality is tucked away in the screen. And if you press on N mode, you've got lots of information coming up. and then lots of selectable modes for things. So you press one of these buttons and you can choose how you want the car set up with like 5 different parameters. Sport, everything in sport, ESC off. Let's go and have a drive. That 1.6 litre engine develops 201 horsepower and 203 pounds-foot of torque. A dash more power than the Fiesta, a little less torque. But then remember, it only weighs 1,190 kilos. That's a me less than the Fiesta. Now, when we were on road, I didn't talk about the engine very much, and there's a reason for that. It's not the star of the show. But now we're on circuit, it's probably a good place to start rather than getting carried away with hurling it around straight away. It's effective, but not very exciting. It pulls perfectly healthily from under 2,000 RPM, kicks at 4,000 RPM and maintains its power pretty well, but it's a bit slow to gain revs. And when you lift off, the revs die away quite slowly as well. It feels like the engine internals are a bit heavy and it makes the nature of the engine a bit sluggish, but it's not slow. The claim 0 to 60 is 6.7 seconds, and it actually feels quite a bit quicker than that. But you need to be in that sweet spot between about 4,000 and 6,000 revs, then it feels quite healthy and decent. And that noise, what do we think of the noise? I think it's a bit plain and muffled, really. You've got various different exhaust modes. I'm in sport at the moment, I can go for Sport Plus. It doesn't really make a blind bit of difference. It's artificially enhanced. It's not really a great noise. Gearbox, 6-speed manual, it's absolutely fine. It's not super tight and mechanical, but it's clean. You're not going to miss gears in it. It's got a nice shift and you can heel and toe yourself really nicely. And if you want the car to do it for you, you've got a big red rev button on the steering wheel and it can do the rev matching for you. But a point on that, you'd imagine that rev matching would either be on or off. But here, you've actually 4 different modes for it. Off, normal, sport and sport plus. Well, if you put it in normal, it doesn't quite rev match. It's just a little bit sluggish and the revs aren't quite high enough. So you need to be in either sport or sport plus, and they, as far as I can work out, are completely indistinguishable. I do like it actually. I do like this. It's got really good grip and turning. Although the steering doesn't have much natural feel, because it's quite tightly controlled and you've got that strong diff in the front, you get a lot of communication back through it. That's good. Right, how are the brakes? They're nice and firm underfoot, good bit of bite, and they're strong. I'm enjoying this actually. I mean, Landau's not a big circuit, so the car doesn't feel out of its depth. Little car like this. It's also, as you can see down there, got a manual handbrake. Wonder what happens if you pull that. It's not a GR Yaris manual handbrake. It doesn't really do very much at all. But the differential is doing a good job here. On track, where the tarmac's smoother, not really having anything to complain about. In the Fiesta, it makes more sense to have a limited slip differential because it rolls more, so it unweights that inside tyre and makes it more likely to spin up. The diff can keep that in hand. But here the chassis has more rigid control, so I'm not sure the limited slip differential is actually necessary. But there are no adaptive dampers. The i30N, this car's big brother, gets them, but the i20N doesn't. Anyway, loads more functionality and stuff to play with than there is in the Fiesta. What it isn't is as playful as the Fiesta. That's the thing it lacks slightly. It doesn't have the same sort of real up for it, tippy-toe feel that the Fiesta is so good at. It just makes it feel engaging and super agile all the time. This feels sort of more settled and composed and planted, like it rides that bit lower. So the amount of traction and grip it's got is really impressive, and it does feel like a sort of junior i30, if you like, in that it's much more sort of composed and controlled. The ride is firm on the road, but then who minds about that, really? Cars like this should be a bit compromised. They should have little drawbacks like that. And when you back off, refinement is fine, actually. All good, Hyundai. Well done. Proved you can do hot hatches. It's a proper straight-talking hot hatch, this. I mean, if you look at what else is out there, besides the Fiesta ST, I mean, what have you got? You've got the 208 GTI, the Polo GTI, the Mini Cooper S. This has more attitude and sporting intent than any of them. It's not the most fluent, refined or smooth riding car, but it feels really well-rounded and complete. Probably more so than the Fiesta. Less than 25 grand for this. I think Hyundai have got a winner on their hands.